We have a special guest today, James. He's part of FDNY Fire Department, and he's going to talk a little bit on fire safety. So without further ado, James, I will pass it over.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. I'm Firefighter James Gennari. I work over in Midtown Manhattan, Engine 1, Letter 24. It's probably one of the busiest firehouses in the city. I just did a year on Staten Island as well. There's a lot of NYCHA buildings in both locations. We're just basically going to talk a little bit about the do's and don'ts in a fire situation. There's been a lot of fires going on. That one in the Bronx, that unfortunate one in the Bronx, there was a lot of things that could have been avoided, and a lot of lives were lost that shouldn't have been lost. But so NYCHA buildings, a little bit about the NYCHA buildings, especially where I work. It's class 1 buildings, we call them. It's a building it's fireproof materials. The building itself is constructed with fireproof materials. What that basically means is the structure itself is fire resistant. Up to 4 hours, they don't collapse. However, the materials inside the rooms of residents, curtains, mattresses, rugs, cabinets, all that stuff can catch fire, right? And since the building itself is fireproof, when something does catch fire in there, the heat and the smoke and the fire can grow very rapidly. So if it's freezing out today, so everybody has the space heaters cranking. Something you could do to mitigate a disaster like that is maybe keep the space heaters away from the curtains, keep them away from the mattresses. I know you want to stay really warm and keep them close throughout the day, but try to put them somewhere in an open area on the floor. This way nothing can catch. In a situation where something does catch fire, God forbid, there's a couple things you could do to help prevent the fire from growing. I know the situation dictates and you can't always do these things, but that fire that was in the Bronx, when the fire started, the initial resident left the room very quickly. They didn't shut the door, and this created what's called a flow path. Fire wants to take the path of least resistance. Smoke, heat, it all wants to take the path of least resistance. So this was a fireproof building. The fire grew rapidly. When the resident left, the doors open, and all that heat went into the public hallway, and smoke went into the public hallway, and this probably caused major panic. The residents started to feel the heat. They started to see the smoke, smelt the fire. Now they all probably left their rooms, leaving the doors open, and now the fire can pretty much go wherever it wants. The initial caller, if possible, again, the situation dictates, but if you're rushing out of the room, it's very important to get that door closed. That'll contain the fire in the room for as long as possible. Firemen respond quick. We get to buildings quick. 3 minutes, sometimes even less, 4 minutes. You're going to have the first truck there. Before you know it, in under 5 minutes, we're going to have 5-6 fire trucks there. So leaving that door closed is going to prevent a lot of damage from being done. A lot of people, they especially neighbors, they want to rush towards the elevator. They want to rush towards the stairs. They see the smoke and they panic. The safest place in one of these buildings is in your room. If that's not where the fire started, you want to remain inside your room because, again, the building's fireproof. Maybe get a towel. You can press it underneath the door. If possible, you can look outside the window, see if there's any smoke. If there's no smoke outside your window, you can open the window in your room. That's going to alleviate a lot of the smoke. And that'll keep you safe in your room. Firemen are going to key the elevator as soon as we get there. The first thing we do is we're going to key the elevator. So if the fire's on the 5th floor, we can get firefighters up there as soon as possible. So the elevator is going to be out of service. So by you rushing to the elevator, only to find out that the elevator is out of service, you just put yourself in a potentially more dangerous position. You don't want to do that. So I would say the best thing to do, wait for the firemen to get there. We're going to check every room on each floor. If we need to get people evacuated, we will. We're going to have an evacuation stairs, and we're going to have what we call an attack stairs. That's how we get the fire put out immediately. We're going to stretch the hose line up the attack stairs and evacuate people down the evacuation stairs. So if you rush towards a staircase, maybe you're going to be running it against firefighters that are coming up with hose on and all equipment. You don't want to do that. That's going to make things difficult for you. So again, another key point, stay in the room. I know it sounds crazy staying in a room while there's a fire going on, but it's the safest place for you. That smoke and that fire is all going to be contained in the room where it started, especially if that initial resident left the door closed. Everyone will be safe. Every fire is different, but I've been through a ton of fires in NYCHA buildings, and usually they remain small. We have a couple of fires where the fire grows, but for the most part, they remain small, and we get there fast. We put it out fast. As quickly as they grow is as quickly as they get put out in buildings like this. Any emergencies, really, whether it be fire or gas, obviously call the fire department. If you smell gas in there and you're unsure about where that smell is coming from, don't be shocked. Call the fire department. We'll find the source of the gas and prevent that from growing bigger than what it is.
Do you have to identify yourself if you call the fire
No,
department?
absolutely. You could remain anonymous. Absolutely not. I mean, it does help if the caller, when we arrive, if the caller is there, it definitely helps because we can go right to the source. But if you want to remain anonymous, that you can absolutely do that. And, if you smell gas or whatever the emergency may be, you could remain anonymous. Just make sure you leave a correct address, because we want to know where to go and where to respond to. Like just yesterday I was working and there was a guy, he was trapped in an elevator. There was a language barrier. We didn't really understand him. He didn't know where he was. He just said he was going to a doctor's office. That's all he told us. So we had to check every building on 25th Street between 5th and 6th to find this gentleman. There's always oddball situations, but yes, you don't have to give, you can remain anonymous. Just try to give as much information as you can to help us so we can help you. So we were talking a little bit before. I was talking with Chris before. She said the first thing she would do is just grab her pets and run out. That's, you don't want to do that. You want to stay in the room with your pets, and you'll both be safe. If you run out, now you're leaving the door open. Again, I keep bringing up that fire in the Bronx, but when they investigated that fire, all those doors were open where the fire floor started, where the fire initially started. Every one of those doors being open just created a massive smoke condition up there. And that's unfortunately why a lot of people perish, they believe. You want to avoid that. Again, if you're really in doubt and you want to get out of that room, the smoke's building up, judgment call. Take the pet, close the door, and go to the staircase. Take the stairs.
Never get on an elevator. Yeah,
you can't go to the elevator. If you got a big pet and you can't carry him or her, don't try to take him to the elevator because the elevator is going to be out of service. Remember that. If you think you can get the pet down the stairs and you feel unsafe in that room, then go for it. But the safest place again is in that room with you and your pet.
What should they do if there is smoke if they're not in a room and there is smoke? Do they have to stay low or,
So again, smoke and fire travels the path of least resistance. So it wants to go up, it's going up with the atmosphere. So yeah, stop, drop, and roll. I'm sure everybody's heard that before. If there's a lot of smoke building up in your room and you want to get out, go low. The atmosphere is going to be the air quality is going to be a lot better the lower you get. When you stand straight, even myself in situations, if there's a fire and I'm doing a search, I'll do a search on my hands and knees just because I don't want to breathe it in. And I have my mask on too. So if you're ever in a situation where you're being overwhelmed by smoke, go low and try to make your escape. Don't stand straight up. You don't want to breathe any of that stuff in. Trust me, it does not taste good. It doesn't feel good. You're going to be coughing black stuff up for probably a week or so. So avoid that. The lower you go, the better. I'm sure the elevators in a lot of these buildings that haven't been serviced in long time, so we run into issues with the elevators very frequently. So if before the fire department gets there and you manage to get on an elevator, don't try to fit 10 people on the elevator. If you're trying to rush down the floors, don't fit 10 people in the elevator because now the elevator might get stuck. These elevators are not good quality elevators. The best option for you if you need to get down is take the stairs. Take the stairs. Firemen are going to be there. They'll be able to help you. They'll be able to evacuate you. And that's worst case scenario if you do have to evacuate, but stay in the room if possible. That's the best advice I can give today is don't think you need to leave the building. These buildings are safe.
One, does the scenario look like in a building that does not have an elevator? So it's a walk up. And two, what does the scenario look like for someone who has mobility limitations?
So again, the same thing. You're gonna have two staircases. You'll have an evacuation stairs, and you'll have what we call an attack stairs. If you need to leave, the firemen are going to guide you to the evacuation stairs. The same concept as if the elevator was working. Because when we get there, there's no elevator access at all. We use that for ourselves so we can position firefighters. So it's going to basically be the same exact concept. If you need to evacuate, we're going to evacuate guys. We're going to evacuate everyone down the evacuation stairs.
Even people with the wheelchairs and mobility, you'll go up and get them.
We'll go up and get them. People with wheelchairs. I had one not too long ago, about 6 months ago. They were both. It was a mobility couple. It was a husband and wife. They were both. One was in a wheelchair, and I think the other one was as well. The other one was bedridden, but they were very nervous because they didn't know if they were going to be able to evacuate. So what I did is I just stood in that room, kept them calm, but I kept them in the room, and they ultimately never even had to leave the room. We got the fire put out. We vented that entire floor, and they remained in their room the entire time. They never had to leave. We never had to take them out. If it does get bad, we have equipment that can get them down. If we do need to evacuate them, we have plenty of manpower and we have plenty of equipment that can get them down. Whether we have to get them on a stretcher or EMS is going to be there, we have the manpower for that. So I don't want anybody to think that they're going to be stuck up there. We will get them down if need be. I noticed a lot of incidents that we've been getting is CO meters going off. A lot of people hate when that thing beeps and they neglect it, they ignore it. But that's, making sure those equipment, the CO meter, the smoke alarm, you want to make sure that's all maintained because that could help save your life. Breathing CO is very deadly. You don't want to. CO is carbon monoxide. It's if somebody leaves their gas on for too long, it permits CO, which you don't want to breathe that stuff in. You'll start to feel lightheaded, dizzy. Carbon monoxide actually doesn't have a smell. It's odorless. It's tasteless. You just start to feel the effects of it. That's why you got to make sure that alarm is working. Natural gas will have a smell. That's what's going to smell like the rotten egg.
So it also comes from the boilers.
It could come from the boilers. It could come from stoves. Anything that is hooked up to a power source or carbon monoxide could really come from anywhere. I mean, I don't want to scare you guys. It's rare, but it could come anywhere. It could come from the streets if they're doing work in on the streets outside. It could come from the tools. So again, it's key. Make sure that detector is in check. If you smell gas and you start to feel these things, this is a good reason to call the fire department. Get out of that room. Call the fire department. You don't want CO poisoning is, that's not fun. Breathing that stuff in, open the windows, ventilate. Because a lot of people, especially in days like this, when it's freezing, people will turn their stove on to create heat. You have enough people with their stoves on, it's going to permit a lot of CO, especially in in buildings like this. Everything is, again, contained. Not only the fire, but the CO is going to be contained. The windows are closed. Nobody has the windows open because it's freezing outside. So if you start to feel lightheaded, you smell that gas. It smells like rotten eggs almost. You start to smell that. Call the fire department. We'll come and we'll see what we can do to help. Fire alarms, we touched up on a little bit before. A lot of people don't maintain them. The battery, when they start chirping, people just take the batteries out so they don't chirp anymore. But you want that to work because that alarm could save your life. If you feel like it's a faulty alarm and you feel like it's not working, I think there's building management and all these places you can ask them. If you're in doubt and you want to make sure it works, you could probably call the fire department for that too. We'll come and we'll inspect that alarm, change those batteries out. The rule of thumb is once a year, inspect the alarm, check the batteries. But I say change it out every 6 months. Change those batteries out every 6 months. just to be safe, because that will definitely save your life. If you hear that alarm, it's loud, it'll let you know something's up. And if there's a fire in one of your neighbor's rooms and their alarm's not working, you might not even know what's going on. And that, again, will create the panic, which we're trying to avoid. As little panic as possible is the key. If you hear the alarm, all right, you'll know something's up. You can peek out, see where it is, how far away it is, a lot of indications. But yeah, just maintain those alarms. CO alarms, smoke alarms, all the same, all good stuff. You could have it in your kitchen, just don't put it by your stove. I would say if you have like a dining room, you could probably put it in the dining room or the hallway that leads to the kitchen.
Would you recommend bedrooms?
You could put it in bedrooms, but it may not pick it up. If there is something being omitted from the kitchen, it may take a little while to pick it up in the bedroom. So you want to have it not necessarily in the kitchen, but close to the kitchen, as close as possible as you can get.
Just not over the stove.
Yeah, don't put it over the stove. It's going to go off all the time. Leaving the oven doors open to create heat. I understand it gets cold. You want to do what you can to warm up. Don't fall asleep with your oven doors open on. Don't fall asleep with your gas running. Try to avoid smoking in the rooms. A lot of people, especially in Manhattan, I don't know what it is, but a lot of people, they fall asleep while they're smoking. And again, the mattress is very easy to catch fire. So they'll fall asleep, the ash will burn through the mattress. The lit cigarette will fall out of their hands. It could catch on a rug, catch on the mattress. You don't want that to happen, because once that lights, it's going to grow. So I don't know what the rules are in smoking in these rooms, but I definitely don't recommend it. Go downstairs. If you could smoke out the window, do that. You don't want to be smoking in the room. A lot of fires are caused that way. That little cigarette could cause so much damage. It's crazy. We've seen it hundreds of times.